There are several reasons to love Jujutsu Kaisen, but the most important one is definitely the creativity Gege Akutami puts in the curse techniques used in the show. A prime example of that is the concept of domain expansion. Well, that's good, because in this video, we'll see the top 10 most powerful domain expansions of Jujutsu Kaisen. Let's start with number 10, the Horizon of the Captivating Skandha. This is the domain used by Dagon, one of the disaster spirits in cahoots with Kenjaku. This domain traps the enemy on a beach. Despite looking like a really calm setting, the main technique summons an infinite amount of sea-based shikigami that devour the flesh of the enemy. All of them have the sure hit effect on them, and none of them are visible to the enemy. Dagon is also able to freely control all the water present in his domain. It's one of the most interesting abilities in the series, and it got the better of Maki, Naobito, and Nanami all at the same time. Toji later entered the domain through the hole punched out by Megumi and completely decimated Dagon in his domain, only letting us see it just a single time. At number 9, we now have the Time Cell Moon Palace. Next up, we have the pride of the Zenin clan, Naoya Zenin with his domain. It's a rather simple domain, classified as a lethal one. It takes the 24 frames per second animation rule to the next level, and injects the formula into the necks of his opponents, due to the sure hit effect. And now, everyone in the domain must move exactly 24 frames per second. But since they're not used to moving like that, it makes room for error. Errors on which Naoya capitalizes. If they don't abide by this 24 frames per second rule, then all the cells in their body freeze in place, leading to instantaneous death at the hands of Naoya, or at least losing a limb due to getting frozen in place. It's a simple concept, but it capitalizes on the lack of adaptability of Naoya's opponents. Number 8, the Coffin of the Iron Man. Next up, we have yet another domain from one of the disaster curses. This time it's Jogo and his Coffin of the Iron Mountain. In this one, it's one of the more lethal domains and lets the user trap his opponents inside a desolate land inside the core of a volcano. The temperature in the domain is so high that normal Jujutsu sorcerers simply get incinerated upon entering. Apart from that, Jogo is able to control the entirety of the lava surrounding him. And since lava is just melted rocks, he's able to control all the rocks on the mountaintop as well. Every attack that erupts from the surroundings has a sure hit effect, and Jogo is even able to nullify Gojo Satoru's curse technique Infinity as well. Number 7, the Womb Perfusion. Coming up next, we have Kenjaku's Womb Perfusion. It's another lethal domain, and is actually one of the 2 barrierless domains introduced in the series. It summons a giant pillar of cursed spirits that are able to obliterate everything in their path. Of course, the attacks have sure hit effect applied to them as well. The attacks are strong enough to gravely injure Yuki, one of the few special grade sorcerers apart from Gojo. The domain is also resistant to anti-domain techniques like Simple Domain. As it's apparently barrierless, a Simple Domain is unable to counter it, hence making it very effective against anti-domain techniques. Number 6, the Deadly Sentencing. Finally, coming over to the more interesting, non-lethal domains, we have Higuruma's Deadly Sentencing. It's a domain based on a court. Higuruma is the prosecutor. His opponents become the defendant, and a judge foresees everything that goes on in the trial. Combat is strictly prohibited, and both parties are protected by the domain. The trial begins when the judge announces the crimes possibly committed by the sorcerer. The prosecutor provides arguments and evidence against him, and based on the evidence provided, and hearing some words from the defendant, a ruling is given. There are 3 possible scenarios as far as we know based on the gravity of the crimes. Confiscation is an outcome that renders the criminal unable to use their curse technique, and if they do not have it, then cursed energy in general. Confiscation plus death penalty takes the criminal's curse technique and also gives Higuruma an executioner's sword, able to kill any and all sorcerers. Of course, if the evidence is circumstantial, then the defendant can demand a retrial as well. It's a complicated domain, with set and established rules, and until the opponent gets used to it, they're at a significant disadvantage. Number 5, the Idle Death Gamble. The next domain on the list is by far the most complicated one. It would take half an hour to explain how it works in detail. So to summarize, it's a non-lethal domain used by the sorcerer Hakari. It puts the user and his opponents in a gambling game, based on the manga series Private Pure Love Train. The domain contains proper characters from the manga, and has different outcomes based on whichever game is in play. A lot of things depend on pure chance, while some carry over to consecutive games as well. If Hakari is able to hit a jackpot, the probability of which varies depending on which game they're playing, he gets a boost of unlimited curse energy and automatic reverse curse technique for around 4 minutes and 11 seconds, which matches up with a pop culture song as well. Once the time is up, his cursed energy reaches normal levels, but by this time, his cursed energy has already replenished enough to cast his domain again, leading to another full cycle in there. The only possible or practical way to defeat him would be to overpower him within those 4 minutes, or get lucky to the point that Hakari runs out of turns before hitting a jackpot. Number 4. The self-embodiment of perfection. Coming back to the lethal and much simpler domains, we have Mahito's self-embodiment of perfection. It is extremely simple, as it simply enhances Mahito's curse technique. However, due to Mahito's curse technique being so destructive against humans, it's extremely lethal. Mahito usually needs to touch the souls of his targets. However, in his domain, due to the sure hit effect, there's no need for that, hence making killing his opponents extremely easy. It becomes a disadvantage when he does it to Yuji, because of Sukuna's presence in his soul, but other than that, it's perfect for humanity's destruction. Number 3. The authentic mutual love. Breaking the top 3 is one of the most broken domains of all time. Yuta Okotsu's domain is a landscape filled with swords. In this domain, he's allowed to use all the curse techniques he has copied and apply the sure hit effect to them. It means that any technique he's copied, he can make sure that it hits its mark in his domain. It's one of the most broken domains of all time, with potentially a limitless stack of attacks that he can use. Depending on what he has already copied, Yuta's domain allows him to spam the techniques that have the maximum effect on his opponent, use them to their maximum potential with his nigh infinite pool of cursed energy, and then make sure they always hit their mark. Number 2. The Malevolent Shrine. When it comes to the domains of the strongest, there's often only a small difference, such as the difference between this one and the number 1. Malevolent Shrine is a purely barrierless domain that allows Sukuna to cleave and dismantle anything within an effective range of 200 meters. He can simply cast this domain in thin air, as it slashes the opponent with unlimited slashes. Anything with cursed energy gets hit with the cursed technique Cleave, while all the inanimate objects get hit with Dismantle. It's a lethal domain, able to kill potentially anyone in the series. What makes it truly overpowered is the fact that while using his slashes, Sukuna himself is free to attack, making it an almost impossible task to get out of there alive. And finally at number 1, the Unlimited Void. Sukuna may be the strongest sorcerer in the series, but his domain is slightly weaker than Gojo's. Gojo's domain traps the opponents inside his curse technique Limitless. It then floods the target's brain with unlimited information, rendering them catatonic and unable to move. This domain has never been defeated in the entire series, nor has anyone survived it solo. Even during Gojo vs Sukuna, Gojo survived Malevolent Shrine multiple times, but the one time he used his domain on Sukuna, he was unable to get out of it if not for Mahoraga. So Unlimited Void, if cast, is pretty much a guaranteed win. Of course, the top 2 are the most refined domains in the entire series, while the third one is also a candidate for being potentially the strongest of them all. Thanks for watching! Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell to be notified of any of our latest uploads. That said, see you in the next one. Bye!